I can't remember much during the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think ever in my life maybe I'd ever been so in the moment of something. Obviously, there's a ton of pressure. I didn't think about playing in the Super Bowl. I was pretty sure it was going to be my last game.
I mean, the lights went out.
And it was that way.
What's something about playing on the offensive line that the casual observer wouldn't understand?
You eat basically whatever you want. We got the best wives. I mean, if you want a lot of attention and accolades, offensive line probably isn't for you.
Are you willing to put the Chiefs in the Patriots conversation at this point in time? All right, everyone, welcome back to the LOOPcast. And for Super Bowl week, we thought the best thing we could do is bring on a Super Bowl champion. Today, I'm talking to Matt Birk. He won a Super Bowl with the Ravens. Many of you will remember it's a game where the lights went out, or the Hard Bowl. But Matt, thank you so much. I know this is a busy week for you as a Super Bowl champion. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm a proud looper.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, I know it's always cool talking to, especially Catholics on Super Bowl week, and I think people really appreciate this. But I mean, I have to start. You know, you're from Minnesota. You go out to Harvard. You go out to the East Coast, and you get to come back home to Minnesota. What was it like being drafted to your hometown team? I know you're calling in from Minnesota as well. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of that's the dream, right? Well, the dream is to play like quarterback for your team you grew up for. I wasn't any good, so I was a lineman. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, my whole football journey is pretty improbable. I didn't start playing football till high school, and you know, found my way to Harvard, which isn't exactly a football factory. But then to come out and the Vikings even told me before the draft, I worked out for them, and they said, you know, we're not going to draft a lineman. You're probably going to get drafted. And so when I got the call on draft day that they were going to take me in the 6th round, it was just kind of surreal. And then, you know, got to play 11 years for my hometown team before I went to Baltimore. And yeah, it's just very, very blessed.
Yeah. And were you sad watching the Ravens lose to the Chiefs? Or
I was sad. I mean, we're still big Ravens fans in my house. John Harbaugh, I played for him. He's a great guy, great Catholic man. Yeah, I just love him and that whole organization's quality from top to bottom. And they just had such a great year, and looked like this was the time that they were going to take that next step. And they just got kind of throttled by the Chiefs, which was very disappointing on a lot of levels. But it's like my wife said, you know, after the game, we watched it as a family, and we're pretty upset, especially my boys, because they're diehard Ravens fans. Some of them were born in Baltimore, and they were pretty upset. And my wife was like, "Hey guys, we don't have any real problems. It's just a football game, but it's hard to remember that sometimes. We're pretty emotional."
There's something poetic about having us talk as a Lions fan myself and a Ravens fan, like you guys talking about the Super Bowl in which both of our teams came just a little bit short. But Matt, so much in that. Take me back. You said you just started playing football in high school, and I'd imagine most people don't get in football to be a lineman. How did you get to that position and then even decide to play in high school?
Well, I mean, I loved sports growing up. It was just a big part of what I did, and I'm glad that I grew up when I did, because, you know, back then it was just more about just playing. There wasn't all this travel and club stuff, and it wasn't so intense. You know, you just play just to play, to have fun. It seemed like things were a little bit more sane back then when it came to youth sports. So I played everything, but I wasn't that good at anything, which didn't matter. It was fine. But then I got to high school, and I played everything except football. So I was like, well, maybe I'll give football a try. And of course, I didn't want to be a lineman. I thought I'd be like a tight end or something. But the first day, they're like, no, you're a lineman. But it was something that I was just, you know, kind of actually good at. You know, I was good at getting in people's way and grabbing onto them, and I really liked lifting weights, which is what I started doing in high school. I liked lifting heavy things and eating a lot of food, and just got bigger and stronger. And you know, it was good enough to. I never thought I'd play past high school. I played my last high school game. I thought that was it, but got recruited by some smaller schools, Harvard being one of them, and so went there because thought it was great. I'll get to play football and get a good education, and yeah, never thought I'd play past college. And then I played 15 years in the NFL. So right, God's got a plan. You know, better than the plan that we can think of. But fortunate it worked out. Football's great, but really playing football as long as I did, the friendships, you know, the friends you make while you're playing football, it's a special kind of bond. Football's a hard game. It's a hard game, so it really does help you develop character. And sort of the way that I approached football, it's it's the way that I approach a lot of things in my life, my marriage, my family, business, a lot of that. There's those signs, you'll see them like sometimes in a doctor's office or something. It's like everything I need to know about life I learned in kindergarten. It kind of goes back to those basics. Well, mine would be everything I need to know in life I learned playing football. And it seems to, it's I think it's working out okay.
You might be the least Harvard person I've ever talked to already.
Yeah, well,
I've only interviewed you.
That is a compliment. Thank you. Especially
usually people from Harvard don't come out and say I learned everything I need to know in kindergarten. So I already like you quite a bit. I'm sure that's probably a shared sentiment. And it's so cool to hear you talk about family and, of course, your faith, too. I know you mentioned John Harbaugh, Catholic guy. I think with people like C.J. Stroud has been very outspoken, and even the media has tried their best to basically hide it. When you were in football, was there kind of a strong Christian Catholic element in a lot of the people you were playing with or like other people in the league?
Really strong Christian element, not a ton of Catholics, but definitely people are surprised when I tell them that the locker room is a very spiritual place. And, because football's hard. It's hard. And the NFL is a crazy thing. I think as human beings, we're built in the image and likeness of God for beauty, goodness, and truth. And we know when things aren't real. And, as much as you try, you want to believe the hype in the NFL and you want to believe that you're as good as they say you are and that you're worth all the money they're paying you. Deep down, and you have these high highs and low lows, and you're always yearning for what's real. And so every team I played on had a team chaplain that was there all the time. 3 out of the 4 head coaches I played for were Catholic, so we had Catholic mass on Saturday night or Sunday morning in the hotel. And I say there's not a lot of Catholics, so at the same time that Catholic mass would be going on, they'd have a Bible study or fellowship service for the Protestants. And, the Bible study would have 30 or 40 guys in it. The Catholic mass would have like me and maybe one other player and then like 8 coaches, So the coaching staffs are Catholic, but no, lots of Bible studies during the week, couple different Bible studies, like at lunch, couples Bible study Thursday nights. It's, it's probably one of the few places where you're actually encouraged to grow in your faith. So you would never know it. The media never talks about it, but Christianity really is part of the football culture.
Yeah. And you got to play with Justin Tucker, right?
Yeah. Tug was a rookie the year we won the Super Bowl. Yeah.
I was going to say, there was actually, there's some humongous names in that 2008 Super Bowl, guys like Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Joe Flacco. Other side, you got Kaepernick and Randy Moss was still playing. Names that you would think like don't even fit together, but what a crazy game. When you were preparing for the Super Bowl, what was that process like as someone, that was towards the end of your career, so you never really, I guess, experienced it up until the end. What was that experience like for you?
Well, it's crazy. It's such a big thing, and I played 15 years and didn't get there till my last year, and I was pretty sure it was going to be my last game. So, you talk about the culmination of a lot of things, and obviously there's a ton of pressure. And so that week or those 2 weeks leading up to the game, I didn't watch any news. I didn't listen to the radio. And I just tried to make the game as small as I possibly could, meaning like I didn't think about playing in the Super Bowl. I just thought, going out there as I was practicing and during the game, I was just thinking, just execute your fundamentals, just execute the things that you practice every single day, that I've practiced every single day for 15 years, snapping the football, taking a good first step, getting my head where it was supposed to be, getting my hands inside. These are basics that you talk about with 4th graders that are playing football. It's the same thing. And I just wanted to focus on that versus trying to versus trying to wrap my head around how big the moment was and think about that and think about what's it going to be like if we win, what's it going to be like if we lose, just really trying to be where my feet were at the given time. And I'll be honest too, when that game's over, there's some relief. You're like, okay, especially if you win and everything that comes with that, then it's a great moment and you get to share with your family and friends and your teammates, but there's relief just because the enormity of the stage. So yeah, and I'll tell you what, I can remember every game I played, and I remember plays. I'll talk with guys, things that happened 20 years ago I can remember a play. I can remember what a guy said in the huddle. I can't remember much during the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think ever in my life maybe I'd ever been so in the moment of something, really lost in the moment, which is a good way to live.
Well, here, let me test you then. So, I mean, the lights went out, and so the Ravens were pounding the 49ers at that point, and it felt like there was a real momentum shift. Kind of got the 49ers almost back in the game. I'm not a conspiracy guy, maybe a little bit, I don't know. But what was that like when the lights shut off? Do you remember anything from that?
Well, yeah. So what I remember is when the lights went out, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, the lights went out. This is so weird. What's going on? And we were just like, because like I said, you're so locked in. It was just, when are the lights coming back on? What do we know? Okay. They said, I remember John Harbaugh saying it's going to be about 45 minutes. I said, okay, great. So let's stay loose. Let's drink water, whatever. You're not talking a lot during the game to anybody. I mean, yeah, sometimes during a regular season game, you joke around, but you're just locked in. And so it's like, okay, 45 minutes. Again, you're not trying to put into context how ridiculous it is that we're at the Super Bowl and, a circuit breaker blew or something. You don't go there. You just stay in that moment and stay focused. So yeah, again, it's just kind of, I don't know. It was almost an out of body experience for me. And I think a lot of guys would say the same thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Also, the Jason Kelce, maybe the Kelce family phenomenon, has really brought a lot of spotlight on the offensive line, I think, maybe for the first time ever. It's kind of a thankless position, but it's got a lot of media attention as of late. Was that something that you appreciated about your position, or were frustrated that maybe you didn't get as much thanks because you were on the line as maybe you thought you should have had?
No, I liked it. Playing offensive line, anybody who's ever done it, it's just personality-wise. I mean, if you want a lot of attention and accolades, offensive line probably isn't for you. There's something really satisfying and special, if you play a game and the offensive line plays well, and everybody's talking about, oh, the quarterback threw for 300 yards, the running back rushed for 100 and scored 2 touchdowns, and them getting the credit. There's something special about just you and your guys knowing that, you're happy. You're totally happy for your teammates, 100%. They deserve it. I mean, they got a hard job too. But there's something kind of satisfying knowing that you're the only guys that know how well you played. You get to kind of appreciate what you accomplished as a group, and nobody's really patting you on the back. Nobody's really talking about it on the radio or on the TV. Kind of makes it more special in that way. So no, I'm a lineman through and through. Just want to show up for work and just tell me what we're going to do, and we'll try to do it the best we can. It's not going to be perfect, but it won't be for a lack of trying, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll try to do it better. What's
something about playing on the offensive line that the casual observer wouldn't understand, like something that most people don't understand?
I mean, listen, there's not a better group of guys in the O-line. I mean, I know quarterbacks and wide receivers, and they look cool. I mean, everyone thinks like, oh, that'd be really cool. Dress in custom clothes and show up, and they talk about who you're dating or married to. O-line, man, it's the best. You eat basically whatever you want. You can dress, you wear jeans and a t-shirt because that's all that really fits you. You don't look good in anything, so you don't care. We got the best wives because our wives are, they really do love us.
They marry you for you, yeah.
Yeah, you're 320 pounds. It's not like you look good with your shirt off. I mean, and nobody. I mean, here's the thing about alignment. Yeah, everyone kind of looks at you like just a bunch of Ophie guys, whatever. Like nobody makes fun of the O-line on the team because O-line guys we're the quickest, we're the sharpest with comebacks. Like, yeah, guys would show up all the time and they try to make fun of the O-line, and we're like a pack of wolves. And when it comes to making fun of each other, guys learn real quick. You just move on to the D-line. Those guys are dumb, but don't come over here to the O-line part of the locker room and try to think like you're gonna get a win because you ain't.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mentioned like you play with guys like Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, and I mean I have to ask, Was Ray Lewis as crazy as he looked on the field? Like, what was it like hanging out with him behind the scenes?
Sundays Ray had created this character that he kind of had to live up to, and it was awesome, man. It was so hype in Baltimore when you were on the field and they'd introduce Ray, and he'd smoke and fire, and he'd do the dance. I mean, the place would just go bananas. That was fun. But Monday through Saturday, Ray was like the most chill guy there was, and really part of what made Ray Lewis so great and such a great leader, he really was a great leader, was nobody got made fun of more than Ray in the locker room. And he took it like a champ. I mean, he loved it. He loved it when guys made fun of him, because he'd do like crazy commercials or be doing goofy stuff on the field, barking like a dog. And oh man, and he was just one of the guys. On the outside looks like, oh, it's Ray's team, everybody does what he says, which we did, but Ray didn't carry himself like that. He was one of the guys, and he understood that he was no more or less important than anybody else if we were going to accomplish our goal, our team goal, which was to win a world championship. You need all 53 guys to win a world championship. You can't do it with just one or two superstars.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys had, of course, some showdowns with the Patriots over the years, and probably the dynasty of your era. Are you willing to put the Chiefs in the Patriots conversation at this point in time, or do you feel like there's some more work that needs to be done?
Well, there's some more work. I mean, but the Patriots, you got to remember, the Patriots dynasty was over. They won their first Super Bowl in 2001, and then there was I'll say a drought. They won 3 Super Bowls, but they didn't win another one for like 10 years. So 10 or 11 years, I think. So it's approaching that, and Patrick Mahomes, I think he's 28 years old. If they win this one, and you look at the trajectory that his career is on, it's certainly possible. You start talking like Patrick Mahomes has a chance to, and the Chiefs have a chance to eclipse Tom Brady and the Patriots, or at least be in the conversation. So it's getting interesting. I mean, I'm older than you. When I grew up, Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player ever, and then it took a long time, really, before a legitimate contender to that title came around with LeBron James. And listen, I'm just going to tell everybody, if you don't know this, you need to know it. LeBron James isn't as good as Michael Jordan was. Anyone who thinks LeBron James is the best ever says that because they're under 40 and they never saw Michael Jordan play. But you can have the conversation. But it took a while. I mean, here we are. Tom Brady just retired a year ago, and we're right on the doorstep of having a legitimate conversation about another guy. So it's fun. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he's a fun guy to watch. It seems like he's a great player. Seems like he's a great teammate. He works hard. He does everything the right way, which you have to if you're going to be the best for a sustained period of time. But yeah, that's kind of, I think, the story of this Super Bowl is if the Chiefs do win, now we're talking about could this be the greatest dynasty in sports, and it's legitimate conversation.
Can I get you on record with a prediction?
Listen, I was so impressed with how the Chiefs really just kind of controlled the entire game against my Ravens. The Ravens were just steamrolling everybody, and they went into Baltimore and got it done. And the week before that, they went into Buffalo and got it done. And so, yeah, I just don't know. I mean, we probably make too much of the quarterback position. And when I say we make too much of it, it's they get too much credit and too much blame. But it is the most important position. And obviously there's talent on all over both rosters. But if you're telling me it's Patrick Mahomes versus Brock Purdy, who's got the edge, it's Patrick Mahomes. And the way that the Chiefs are winning now, it's not how the Chiefs were winning 5 years ago with this super explosive offense. They're winning because they're controlling the football, a lot of it due to Patrick Mahomes and short passes or him scrambling and keep the chains moving, and really, really good defense. And so just with everything that I've seen this postseason, I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes.
I think I'll join you there, unfortunately. So one thing that I really admire about you, Matt, is even during the time where you were a football player, and I guess maybe this has become more clear to me in talking to you about your offensive lineman personality, but when it comes to Catholic faith and convictions, you really didn't shy away from how that actually impacts how you live your life. And of course, a Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner, by all marks, a fantastic character. But one thing that always comes to mind with Super Bowl is the visit afterwards. And you chose actually not to visit President Obama after his support of Planned Parenthood. And of course, with pro-life views, you spoke at the March for Life and things like that. Why did you feel it was important for you to do both of those things, not just not visit and then how you handled that situation, but also then speak at the March for Life?
Well, specifically, after we won the Super Bowl and President Obama was the first sitting president to address Planned Parenthood. And at the end of his speech, he said, "God bless Planned Parenthood." And, certainly I can respect other people's viewpoints, even if I don't agree with them. But when you go that far, when you say God bless Planned Parenthood, that's 100% wrong. God's not blessing Planned Parenthood. So he did that. And then 2 days later, the invitation shows up at my house for the White House. And I just thought, well, of course I was upset, and I just thought, well, this is a way for me to live out my faith. And just, personally, it wasn't like a sacrifice or anything. Like I didn't want to go after he said that. And that was it. I just checked no on the box and sent the invitation back. And, but then the day that the Ravens went to the White House, I was the only guy that wasn't there, and media was calling me and asking me what happened. And first I sort of tried to just deflect, but then I was like, I don't have anything to be ashamed of or run and hide from. So I told them why I didn't go, and just thought that'd be the end of it, but then it kind of blew up, do a 24-hour news story. And I was on Fox and I was on CNN and doing all that stuff. And so, God works in mysterious ways. Because of that, then got invited to go speak at the March for Life and have a couple of times. And sort of, I guess, that's morphed into me working with a lot of pregnancy centers, doing a lot of speaking on behalf of the unborn throughout the country. So it's like, I said earlier, right? God's got a plan for your life, and it's better than anything you could imagine. It's just absolutely fantastic from a standpoint of, I get to meet lots of amazing faith-filled people who are getting no notoriety, but they're doing the things that they're doing, working the places they're working, devoting their lives to causes for the kingdom. And that's just so inspirational for me to meet these people and to be around them. And it's just kind of how it all happened. And just, I guess, just grateful that that's how it's gone.
Yeah, and you did pretty well throughout your NFL career. I mean, you're not really hurting for money, and you still chose to run for office in Minnesota. Was that event and your personal convictions connected to your foray into politics?
Well, I don't think you do it for money. Although I don't know, a lot of these politicians end up accumulating a lot of wealth.
I don't know. Nancy Pelosi's doing pretty well.
Yeah, well, maybe that's U.S. office, not state office. No, that was another thing where I live in Minnesota, and last couple of years things have been really tough in Minnesota. Not just the pandemic and those things, but we had the George Floyd incident and riots up here, and I'm proud Minnesotan. Didn't like the direction that our state was headed. Our schools aren't doing very well. Our kids aren't doing very well. Crime is up. All these things. And there's this guy, Scott Jensen, who was just a private citizen, and he decided to run for governor. And I thought, well, here's a good man who's sacrificing a lot, who's putting himself at risk. He's a doctor, and once he ran for office, he's had his medical license investigated 5 times by the state of Minnesota. But he's
sure coincidence, right?
Yeah, he's won all 5, by the way. He's 5-0. But I saw what he was doing, and I admired it. And then just so happened one day I was on a plane, and he was on the plane, and so we were talking, and he asked me if I was going to run for governor, and I said no, and he told me he was, and I said I'd like to support him because I think generally speaking in politics, we need less career politicians, more private citizens who have been successful in whatever their line of work is, to go in and fix things, to run government like a business. And so I started supporting Scott, and then I saw that there was a real movement happening. I saw that everyday people were getting behind him. I saw that people had been hurt the last few years by the government, by the mandates that they had imposed. And I mean, really hurt, like wounds that will never heal, lost things that were taken from them wrongfully. And then Scott says, "Hey, what do you think about running for lieutenant governor with me?" And I said, "Absolutely not." I said, I'm not a politician. I'm not going to do that." But then a month later, he came back and asked again, and we had a long talk, and we went out with our wives and talked it over. And I said, "Okay, this is what we feel called to do. Don't know if we'll win or not. Of course, I thought we'd win, but I don't like to play games that I think I'm going to lose." But thought, that God was calling us to do this, and we ran a heck of a campaign. We had a ton of fun, met a lot of great people, but ultimately we didn't win, which is okay. It's not our job to be successful. It's just our job to be faithful. And people ask me all the time, "You going to run again?" I say, "I'm going to run away." But yeah, I never say never. It's not something that like I would necessarily choose or it's on my list of life goals. But I just try to stay open to what God's will is and try to discern that. And we'll see.
So I mean, I love how simple and true that answer you've given many times to this podcast is just discerning God's will. It's really beautiful. How have you been able to personally discern God's will throughout your life and listen to what He's really trying to tell you?
Well, let me first of all say I'm not 100% on that, but I
don't think anyone is.
It starts with a strong spiritual life and interior life. Gosh, I don't know. It was maybe we're probably talking 10 years ago now. I took up a holy hour every week, and in today's world, with all the noise and with how busy we all are, and connected and overscheduled, I don't know how anybody survives without that. To tell you the truth, to get 1 hour in front of the Blessed Sacrament, where you can sit there and just listen, or try to listen to see if God is speaking to you, or bring these decisions to prayer. It's just essential. I'm always shocked, right? Like, I mean, you read some of the things that Fulton Sheen wrote about the noise and the busyness and how important, it's like, everybody's so busy, we don't have time for God anymore. And then you realize he wrote that like 70 years ago. I mean, if those words were true 70 years ago, they're like 1,000,000% true now.
Yeah.
But I think that's the biggest thing. The devil he's got a lot of tactics. One of them is to keep us busy. And so, I'm busy, you're busy, everybody's busy. You got jobs and family and friends, and especially if you got kids. I have 8 kids, wife, like there's a lot of demands, but you got to keep first things first, and you got to keep your priorities straight. Otherwise, you just get a little bit off the path. But if you stay off the path, if you're 2 degrees off course, but you do that for a long time, you're way off target. And so that's what I really love about, it can really, I guess, lean into with the Catholic faith is we have all these things at our disposal. We obviously have the Mass, we have the Rosary and confession and adoration. And I mean, we even have the saints, we've got the Catholic Hall of Fame that we can look at for inspiration. And it's like, we just need to keep practicing these. You just practice it's like football. You just practice these fundamentals over and over and over and over again. Good times, bad times, it doesn't matter. You get into those habits and that routine, and it's just really about doing the fundamentals. We talked about the Super Bowl earlier. I didn't go out there and just say like, okay, I'm gonna go make this happen and we're gonna win the Super Bowl. I leaned on my fundamentals and said, that's my job. My job here is to execute the fundamentals. And then the results will take care of themselves. And so often in life, we get focused on results, and we forget, one, there's a lot when it comes to results, we can't control a lot of it, but we can control the process, and we can control the time and effort that we put into things. So, to be Catholic, to be a good Catholic or a great Catholic, it doesn't take any talent. It just takes time and effort. So, for a low talent guy like me, that really speaks to me.
Yeah, and you slid this in. You have 8 kids. Congratulations. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Maybe this is the O-line advantage, but I don't think ESPN made any graphics like they did for Phillip Rivers when he had. I saw some like ESPN graphics of like 9 kids and like he's got his own team and all that, and like maybe you slid by or it was a different era. But I always laugh thinking of Phil getting a hard time about that. I know he came to the Colts at the end of his career. He was living kind of close, and but yeah, he was always a great, his trash talk. I don't know if you ever got trash talk by Phil, but he's got great trash talk.
Oh yeah, there's some great stuff of him mic'd up, and that's the thing too. I remember one time I had a coach, my O-line coach, Steve Loney, and he said to us, he said, a lot of people think if you're Christian that means like you're soft, like you can't be a great football player if you're a great Christian, and that sounds kind of funny to say, but he's absolutely right. I mean, Philip had an edge, had a chip on his shoulder that was surpassed by nobody, and his trash talking was absolutely brilliant. That was part of it. You can be we talk about being a competitor. We used to call them all day Jessies. You can be an all day Jesse and love the Lord. In fact, if you're doing everything for the Lord, right, you should be the fiercest competitor out there. But
yeah, I don't know how we all got kind of psyoped into thinking that Christians have to be these kind of meek nobodies, like you have to just lay down all the time.
Yeah, no, we're meek and docile when it comes to the Lord, but now when it comes to playing football or doing anything else, I mean, if football, right, your job's to win. You want to win, so you go out there and you do whatever you can to do that.
Yeah, can I ask, is the offensive lineman? I mean, you guys got. I don't want to see your hands right now. I'm sure you probably got some nice scars. Okay, yeah, the hands are looking good. I just know there's a lot of, you've gone through injuries. I know that it's football, there's injuries, but especially on the line, I feel like it's a lot of nicks and tears, and I'm sure you had some moments of tribulation in your career. Did you have a specific saint or inspiration or devotion that really helped you get through those times of suffering, someone that you look to?
Not a specific saint, but I not to over dramatize it, but I'm right. I like being a Catholic. We know that there's dignity and meaning in suffering, and I mean, we can all feel sorry for ourselves. And believe me, professional football players are no different. A lot of people don't want to hear it, and I don't blame them. But I think you're in a lot of pain. Monday mornings you wake up and your foot hits the floor sometimes, and it's like, I'm going to need a minute to kind of do a systems check here and make sure I can make it to the bathroom. But to kind of, stop, and not kind of spiraling into that self-pity mode. I mean, I'd always remind myself of that. Remind myself, one, how fortunate I am. I am healthy. This is kind of self-inflicted pain that I'm putting myself through, and I'm getting paid millions of dollars to do it. So it's not so bad, but, there is something about going through that and offering it up and kind of that mortification, if you will, because pain's it's a fact of football and it's a fact of life too. I mean, you're going to go through physical pain, emotional pain, whatever it may be, and so it really does. I think it does if you view it and use it the right way, it can help you detach from yourself, and you can grow spiritually with that. And listen, it's. I mean, I'd be lying too if I said though, like you're like, okay, it's Monday or it's Friday, and I still feel like garbage. I got to find a way to get out there on Sunday. So like you're pulling everything out of the bag of tricks to fool yourself into thinking
some smelling salts.
Okay, yeah. Well, it takes some kind of cream some guy got, whatever. I'll try it. Anything.
Yeah, that's so cool. And maybe this is a personal question because you're on the other side of the lens, obviously, and I got to enjoy this kind of magic run from the Detroit Lions. Being a Lions fan my whole life, I had 3 generations of my family watching the first playoff win of my life, but then the second one too. I mean, just stuff that hasn't happened since Barry Sanders, that even before that, we thought we might go to the Super Bowl, all that. I think that football sometimes gets a rap of maybe taking up too much space in people's heads, especially on Sunday. Like it's almost like a golden calf of America. And I personally, I'd like to hear your perspective on it, because I feel like there's so many positives in terms of like bringing people together, what it can do for a city. What would you say to maybe proper balance, or what football should mean to people? What did it mean to you when you were in Minnesota, when you were in Baltimore? What were some of the best parts of the positives that you felt it brought to people in America?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, it's a balance, right? The NFL, it is kind of a civic religion, and it's on Sundays. I mean, most of it. And so it's certainly, right, like there has to be, temperance has to be exercised, because I mean, I love football. I can get sucked in, and some Sundays, it's always on, and I'll find myself, I should be doing something with, with this kid over here. I should cut the grass or whatever, but the game's on and I get sucked in, and next thing I know, it's an hour later. But the good things, no, I think there's a lot of good things. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we'd run home from church, and we'd get in front of the TV. I mean, we had one TV. We'd get in front of the TV, my brothers and my dad and I, we'd watch the Vikings. That was really the only game we had. So you really, there was almost like an imposed limit. You're only going to watch one game, or you only followed your team. Now everybody follows everybody because of fantasy football and betting and all that. But, it brought us together. It was a way for us to hang out. I've heard that from men and women talk about that's what they did on Sundays as a family. It does unite a city, right? Regardless of beliefs or political parties. When a team's winning, it's fun. There's just a vibe in a city that to get behind their team. I can't imagine what Detroit was like this year. I mean,
it was the best.
It's probably they're like, what is this feeling we're having? It's joy for the Lions. This is weird.
Yeah.
One of my good friends, I'm blessed to know him, Father Joe Krupp, out of Lansing or Flint, and he's great on social media. You got to follow Father Joe Krupp. He tweets about that a lot, and he was just like, "This is so weird. I'm 50 some years old, and I've never experienced this. I think it's called winning." But no, there's a lot of good there. But like anything, there is balance. It was funny. We watched this past Sunday. We watched the entire Ravens game, my family and I never sit there and watch an entire game. And when it was over, I said, "Man, that's a long time to just sit in front of the TV and watch a game." And then there was another game. I didn't even watch the Lions 49ers game until like the fourth quarter, because I was just footballed out and I had a bunch of stuff I had to get done too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is that balance, but no, it's a special thing. I think you can definitely use it for good. But you have to be careful. Otherwise it turns into something that's indulgent.
Yeah, for sure. And from being in the Super Bowl, winning Super Bowl, to seeing the Super Bowl now, that was back in 2008. We're talking about
2012.
I'm sorry, 2012. Right. My apologies. And then now we're in 2024. What has remained the same, and what has changed to you about football and the Super Bowl from those years?
I don't know. I mean, it certainly gets a little bit bigger every year somehow, some way. But it's, I mean, back then, 11 years ago, it was the biggest thing then, and it's the biggest thing now. It just seems like every year it gets a little bit less and less about football and more about all the other stuff that's going on, whether it be, the halftime show or, who's dating the world's biggest pop star, or, whatever, right? I mean, yeah, I don't know. Somehow it's almost like this beast, right, that just has to keep eating and get a little bit bigger every year. But what I enjoy is, at the end of the day, you get to sit down and watch football, and being someone who's just a huge sports fan and enjoying the sports it's the original and the best reality TV. And so the great thing about the NFL is it's the playoffs are a one-game tournament. And so that, like, at the end of this one game, there's going to be someone who's be able to call themselves world champion. And on the other side, it's the thrill of victory, and then it's also the agony of defeat, because not that I would know from firsthand experience, but knowing guys that have lost the Super Bowl, it's something you don't really ever get over, to be that close to the pinnacle. Nobody ever talks about, man, remember that great whatever team, they were runners up. Nobody ever talks about that. And so it's kind of this all or nothing proposition. Just that the game itself and the human drama that goes along with it. I enjoy that the most, and that still is what, at the end of the day, at the end of all the 29 hours of pregame and everything else that's going on, who performs at the halftime, it's really about that. And and then after a week or so, then they just start talking about next year and who's they talk about the draft and free agency.
I'm used to talking about the draft in like December, so this was a pretty great year to be watching meaningful football in December.
Without
talking about the draft. But Matt, if people want to continue to follow you, support your work, I know you do a lot of work with pregnancy resource centers and a lot of awesome charitable work. Where can they help follow you and support you?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, MattBirkandCompany.com. That's just our website. I am on the Twitter a little bit. I would like to talk about one thing I'm doing for Super Bowl. So you see these beautiful bags behind me. I'm with a company called Heritage Gear. We make premium licensed goods. We have NFL. We have like 55 colleges, products made right here in the USA. We make these beautiful bags that have the American flag on them. I should have one, but we didn't talk about this. But so I'm really big into supporting military veterans. My father's a veteran. I'm a proud American. And 1 in 6 of our veterans is food insecure, which is really unacceptable. And so we've partnered with the Robert Irvine Foundation. Robert's a worldwide celebrity chef, New York Times bestseller, crazy guy. He's like all jacked up and he's got a ball of energy. He's nuts. But his foundation actually supports hungry veterans. And so if you go to heritagegear.com, we have this Chefs for Vets campaign going on right now. heritagegear.com. Any bag you buy, and every bag that we sell on the website between now and Valentine's Day, the proceeds are going to go to the Robert Irvine Foundation. And we've done this before, and it's worked really well. And I hope anybody listening would just go to our website and check out the products and see if there's something for you or for your sweetheart for Valentine's Day or whatever. But you're gonna support a great cause. Super Bowl is like this ultimate day of leisure for us Americans. So it's a good time to pause and remember those less fortunate, and especially remember our servicemen and women who we don't appreciate enough. We don't say thank you enough. And we know all the issues that some of them have. But hunger is a dumb problem because all it takes is money to solve. We don't have to come up with a cure, or it's not like some of these other ailments. It just takes money, and a dollar goes a long way in the fight against hunger. So buy a bag, feed a vet at heritagegear.com.
Yeah, and I'll drop that in the link. And the bags behind you are sweet. I like that. The Notre Dame one is clean.
Notre Dame's good. You got the Patriots one. I think Michigan's down there, but we got about 55 colleges, NFL, and Major League Baseball coming out this year too. And everything's made right here in America.
Awesome. Yeah, those are clean. We'll definitely get that out to everyone in the loop. But Matt Birk, thank you so much for taking the time to join. You're a busy guy, and really appreciated hearing your story.
Hey, I love the loop. I've got the mug because I turned on 10 people to the loop. Somehow, some way I came across it, and I was like, this is fantastic. I tell people, you get your news from everywhere. All you need to do is subscribe to the loop and go through it every day. And in 5 minutes, you're good to go. So I appreciate all the work that's going on over there in CatholicVote, and just so important, so important in today's day and age. And would urge everybody to support that as well.
Well, man, I might have to hire you to make the pitch for the loop full time, because I'll be the hype man.
I'll be the hype man.
Yeah. That sounds good. All right, Matt. Thanks for coming on, and hopefully talk to you soon.
My pleasure, Tom. Thanks.